It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, November 20th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's going to try and answer the Flyers blue line question right now.
Oh, that's a toughie.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, just some good news about Mitch Dunning, the official that was pretty much wrecked in the game against the Avs. He's home and resting. He's sore, but it looks like he's going to be okay. Probably take a couple games off and then get back to it, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to get a few days off. No, that's great news. I mean, it looked bad. They took every right precaution. I'm glad.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at practice yesterday, good news on the blue line front in that Cam York practiced in a regular jersey. So we'll look to probably see him check in versus Carolina, but TBD on that front.
I don't know. I thought he was checking in last game, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, but this time he was in practice with everybody in the regular jersey.
Sure.
So we'll see. Jamie Drysdale was out there in a non-contact jersey. Zamula was at practice, which is a good sign given that he kind of left the game early on Monday night. That is good to see. Travis Sanheim, in a not shocking twist, took a maintenance day because, he played over 30 minutes. He's been playing a lot
Just
of
a normal game.
minutes. Yeah, this is what we have been talking about with him. And of course, Emil Andrae still not on the ice because he is injured. Sam Ersson is still on IR. So those are two missing in action guys right now.
And I just want to say Ryan Ellis is still on IR too.
Oh, God.
Well, he is.
He is. Okay. So given all that, I think it is a good time to kind of look at the Flyers blue line and looking at it from an ideal perspective and a where we are now perspective. Because if Cam York is back tonight or whether he's not back till the next game, there's going to be a question as to where to put him, right? So, and do you slowly work him back in terms of minutes, or do you put him right back on the top pairing with Sanheim? And I think that is going to be the biggest immediate question. But I think that creates a second side question here. And what's the best for Sanheim? And do you do what's best for the team overall in spreading the wealth, or do you give Travis Sanheim, because he is very clearly your best defenseman, the best pairing for him? Like, where's your fork in the road on this?
My fork in the road is he should have two partners because he's playing half a game. So by playing half a game, there's nobody else on the team that's going to play half a game. So technically, he's going to have two partners every game.
That is a very interesting note there because digging into the numbers here, the pairings with the most minutes this season overall are Sanheim York and Sanheim Risto, right? And then the third most is Sealer and Ristolainen, which makes sense, right? Because if Sanheim York is, up there, then Sealer Risto is your next pair, right? So those are going to be like your top minute getters. And if you're looking at who do you pair with Sanheim in a perfect world, I pulled all the numbers in terms of 5-on-5 minutes. You look at goals for percentage, you look at expected goals for percentage, scoring chances for percentage, which I think is a key stat here when you're talking about defensemen, right? Because you're looking at, are they generating offense from the back end, and are they preventing offense as defensemen, right? And you look at goals against per 60, which I think is a key stat as well. And Sanheim has primarily paired with Ristolainen, like I said, York, which is the second most minutes, Drysdale, the third most minutes, and Emil Andrae, the fourth most minutes. And Andre, obviously, he's hurt now and he's been in fewer games. So those minutes are going to naturally be fewer. And Drysdale's
Right.
been injured, so his numbers are lower here. But I like if you just look at the numbers and you look at it from an ideal world perspective, you do split those minutes. So Emil Andre should be his regular partner per se, right?
Hmm.
With Ristolainen in his defensive zone and neutral zones starts. That's how you split it.
Sure.
All of this data, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could work that to some degree, and yeah, I do think that's the best. I agree with that because when York comes back, having him on the top pair could get him injured again. Like he's not the biggest guy, and so you have to say maybe we got to keep him on the second pair because having him on the first pair, he's going up against bigger guys, stronger guys, and maybe second pair keeps him healthy the rest of the year. And maybe that's just where he belongs anyhow. So that is my thinking on that. And then Risto,
Right.
you can pop in between second and first pairing during the game.
Right. And so if you look at the numbers with Ristolainen, that pairing has very high goals against at 3.6 per 60, right? Which seems very high, but their zone starts are weighted extremely heavily toward the defensive zone and neutral zones.
Okay.
And so that is going to be weighted a
Yeah, sure. If they're
little
not
bit.
getting offensive zone starts, it's a lot of pressure. It's always
Right.
pressure.
So their percentages look like a little negative on their face, but knowing from the eye test what kind of player Ristolainen is and
Yeah,
Travis Sanheim's style of play, they work well together
they
when
do.
they start from the defensive zone in terms of generating offense from the defense, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely working well. I would keep it.
So looking at Cam York with Travis Sanheim, their starts are weighted more toward neutral zone and a little bit offensive zone there, which again makes sense because those are the kinds of starts you would put that pairing
Yes.
on. Lo and behold, their expected goals for are well above 50%. Their goals against go down a little bit, although not as much as you would want, which is why I would say Emil Andre is the
Hmm.
correct option, right? And so the Sanheim York pairing, their goals percentage or their goals 4% is 44.44. With Andre, it's 50. And so that's where you get to that conclusion there in terms of Andre over York. So then the question becomes, Russ, what do you do with York? And then what do you do with Drysdale when he comes back?
I mean, York could play with Sealer. I think that's fine. Um, and so then I guess with Andre, he'll be on the first pair and the third pair. So I think you do it that way. And then the other guy with Andre is like that's going to be a revolving thing. That could be for now, Grans, who I think has earned other starting time, or Zamula.
Okay, but we're not there yet. We're just talking
Okay.
York and Drysdale. So
Yeah, Drysdale's the odd man out. He's out.
yeah, I like this is where the tough question lies, right? Because with Cam York, he's pretty much only played with Sanheim this
Right.
season. So the numbers are hard to parse out here.
Right.
Uh, you know, they played together for 90 minutes last season, had mixed results, which has continued into this season, as I talked about. So I think it's best to play York with Ristolainen, except when Ristolainen gets bumped up to the first line, right?
Okay. I mean, I'm not against it. I just think York and Sealer might be worth looking at, but okay. I'm not against that.
Yeah, I think Sealer's the best option to play with Drysdale because if you look at the numbers and you look at their styles of play, I think they mesh together better because you
They
need
do.
Sealer to be a little bit more defensive. He's the shot blocking guy, he's the physical guy. Drysdale's never going to be that.
No, that's true, but I'm not playing Drysdale every game now.
Yeah, well, that is the other
That's
option
the
as
that's
well,
the
right?
thing here. So I agree with you when Drysdale plays, but to me,
Yeah.
Drysdale has not proven he could be a regular at this time.
Yeah. So if he's not a regular, then who's left, right? So we have Zamula to consider, we have Johnson to consider, and now we have Helge Grans to consider. Now there's very clearly not enough data in terms of looking at numbers
Hmm.
on Helge Grans, right? So it's hard to like put some hard and fast data to that. But coming up next, we're going to look at the ideal scenarios out there with and without Grans and with and without Zamula, which I think is the more interesting look at things right now.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks, the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks invented the flex pay, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You could double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game.
Some of the best concerts of the year take place in the fall, and it's my favorite time to head to a show. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about last minute flash deals and super deals so you know you're getting the best bang for your buck. Best of all, they have all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout when you activate the feature. Also, tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. On tomorrow's show, we will recap tonight's game against the Carolina Hurricanes, a second time seeing them in recent days. And we'll look at draft eligible prospect Porter Martone, who's a Canadian forward. Very excited to do that as well. So now we've gotten ourselves to a point where we have too many bodies for
Hmm.
6 slots on your regular rotation. And you know, you mentioned Grans having earned a place in that list of the rotation
Temporarily.
temporarily. Yeah. I think it is really interesting because he clearly played in that first game well enough to earn a second game,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah. There's no question in my mind. Like, they were better with him in there. He made some really good plays, a lot of them, and added some extra push and shots on net that other defensemen haven't been able to do.
I agree with you. And, you know, his style of play is something that's very different
Yes.
from pretty much everyone else out there right now. I would suggest that there might be some similarities with Cam York's style of play as he is playing right now, but I don't think, you know, it's not exactly the same. But I do think that Grans fills a need that the Flyers do not have generally elsewhere. So, you know, we're looking at tonight's game against Carolina. You put him back in. Obviously, Andrae is out in terms of the ideal
Correct.
scenario. So you're probably going to either put York up there or Risto up there again, right?
Right. Yes. Yep.
So most likely Risto, given
Most
the
likely Risto.
circumstance.
Yes.
So then, you know, do you really just roll with the blue line we had against the Avs for this game?
I mean, yeah, because in the end, they may have only given up 3 goals. So, you know, 3 goals is 3 goals. It didn't look pretty, but that's the way it ended up. So, right now, yeah, I think you have to kind of do that.
So in that scenario, Zamula and Johnson were in the lineup. So
No, well,
if
Johnson
York
would be out though. That's
right,
the only
so
thing.
Johnson would be out with York back in, right?
Correct. Yeah. Matter of fact, I would just tell Eric Johnson, hey, I'm glad. We're proud of you. 1000th game was great. 1001, nice. We'll use you when we need you. And he gets scratched for a lot now. A lot. because these other guys need to play. Erik Johnson doesn't need to play. And I was watching him on shifts, and there were some shaky shifts. So that defense that they played against Colorado, that they kind of only gave up 3, which I felt was a little fortunate,
Hmm.
would improve without Erik Johnson, I think.
Right. And so in that scenario, do you move Grans up to be with Sealer, or like how do you handle that?
No, I have to keep him on the third pair. He's going to get limited minutes compared to the other guys. So
Right. So
no,
then that's Sealer York as your
right.
middle pairing,
Yeah, and I'm fine with
assuming
that.
he comes back in,
Yes,
right?
assuming. Yes. And I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. I've seen them, but I'm pretty sure we've seen them for stretches before, and I thought it's been okay.
So in the long run, though, that kind of changes, right? And I think that the question then becomes like, what do we do with Zamula? Because I feel like he's the odd man out, presuming all these guys start to get healthy, right?
Yeah. So at some point, if they decide after these few games that they really like Grans, I think it's time to make a tough decision. I don't think you should just send Grans back. I mean, look, sorry, Lehigh, you're having a rough year anyhow. Like whatever, you can't always worry about that. So I would look at it and say, all right, if I'm Danny Briere, I got to start putting out word that we're shopping a defenseman, and you got a choice of X, Y, and Z. And you could always throw Risto's name in there, but he's got a couple more years left,
His
and
contract is not
not yet. I
tradable
think
right
after
now.
next year, I think then you could talk. So
Mhm.
it's the other guys. It's Zamula. I don't think they were gonna. I don't think they'll float Johnson out there just
No,
yet. So Zamula,
'cause he's easy to sit. So,
right. So you float out Zamula. You got to do something. You do that, and then maybe what you get back for Zamula is a younger defenseman who could play in Lehigh too. And maybe that's your answer because you've got enough guys for the big club, especially when Andre's back. That's kind of what I would do. I don't, and I think it's fair to Zamula to do it.
yeah, I think so too. And it breaks my heart because I've been Team Zamula since the
Oh
beginning
yeah,
and, have wanted him to succeed, but it just seems like there isn't a good place for him in
no,
the long run on this blue line.
no, I agree, and it's just, and that would be fair because let's face it, in the long term future, it doesn't look like he's going to be on the Flyers anyhow.
I think that all makes sense. And, given where the Flyers are right now, I don't think some trades are out of the question. And we saw like Ronnie Attard get traded
Yep.
away for similar reasons. Like there just
Yes.
wasn't a place for him anymore. I think he needed more of a reset than Zamula does. I think
Yes.
Zamula's playing much better than
Yeah.
Attard was.
Zamula, some team who's got injury problems on the blue line would be interested in for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's definitely, an interesting question as to how
Hmm.
this blue line is going to pan out, in the short term and the medium term. I think the long term, we got to get some good picks for some quality
Yes.
defensemen and develop them. That's
Yeah.
really what we're looking at, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, this year's draft has defensemen. And so taking multiple defensemen in this year's draft, probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Flyers do indeed face the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Whether or not we see Cam York or not remains to be seen. But since we saw Carolina last, they have played 6 games. They won 4 of those 6, and the 2 losses they had to Colorado Avalanche, surprise, and Utah, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Those are
There's
their
always
only,
one that's always weird.
yeah,
That's the
those
way
are
the
their only.
NHL is this year.
No, absolutely. There's some weird stuff going on along those lines, but those are their only 2 losses out of their last 10 games. They're on a 2-game win streak. They're top of the Metro in point percentage, second in official standing. So they're having a very good season thus far overall. Obviously Freddie Anderson is still out.
Yeah.
Looks like
He's
he
out.
might have surgery. Seth Jarvis has been out and he practiced and he's going on their road trip, but I don't think he's gonna play yet.
Right. But Martin Netchis is hot as a firecracker, man.
Sure. We saw that directly in the
We
last
did.
game. So in terms of how to win this time, I mean, clearly don't let up at the end of the game, right?
Right. Right. That's a big thing. Don't let up at the end of the game. Don't um, really try and play 100% defense the first 2 periods like they did against the Avalanche, because the Avalanche were just, having their way with them, just not scoring, but still having their way with them. Can't let that happen with Carolina, or you're going to probably get similar results. So, and the other thing is, and again, I think when Cale Makar talked about this, teams know the Flyers are going to block a lot of shots and know that they're going to be tough around the net. And they're now figuring out how to score from further away and just passing cross ice and doing that. Makar had those 2 goals that were shoulder high shots from far away, and other teams are going to start copying that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they just have to cut down on the mistakes, right?
Yes.
Mistakes that negate power plays, mistakes that give other teams power plays, and that give, you know, the other teams those 2-on-1 rushes,
Mm-hmm.
especially given the goaltending right now. I think it's just really important they play, as mistake-free as possible and a buttoned-up defense, and maybe they have a shot this time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who'll be in net. Like Kolosov had a good game. I mean, he was just under so much high danger pressure for 2 periods of that
Yeah,
game and then part of the third. It was crazy.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know who's getting the next start. Maybe Fedotov gets back in. Maybe he doesn't. I'm not sure.
yeah. We shall see. All right. It is Wednesday, so we always have our mailbag segment on the show, and y'all have some great questions. We'll get to those coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $100, $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I go with the Steelers over the Browns this week. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Digging right into our mailbag, Todd Gersh asks us, York, Drysdale, and Andrae are all undersized defensemen. Can we keep all 3 and be a Stanley Cup contender down the road?
Yes, you just have to pair them with bigger guys. So, yes, you definitely can. There are teams that have at least 2 of those guys. Some can have 3. You look at the Avalanche, they have Gerard, Taves. They're not the biggest guys. So that's 2 right there. So, and Makar, yeah, he's not the biggest guy, but it really doesn't matter, man. But again, I think you can do it with 3. I do.
I think so too, especially if you have big centers as
Yes,
well. I
that
think
helps too.
supplementing that, and the Flyers have been drafting very large centers, so
Yes.
I think that has been part of the consideration there, to be honest. So we've been getting a lot of comments about Morgan Frost. He's either extremely terrible and needs to get traded, or they should play Morgan Frost more. And we've said that they should play him more specifically for face-offs, mostly, right? He's
Yes.
still not at 50%, but he's better than some of the other Flyers, and that's primarily. But Johnny G on Blue Sky asked us, why do you think Frost has had such a short leash while guys like Farabee, Brink, Tippett, and Forster have been given so much opportunity to improve?
One word, favoritism. That's it. Because, unless Morgan Frost was on fire, that was the only time John would ever say some positive things, and he still would kind of come short on that. And so, yeah, this is just, again, because really Forster, until he got that freakish goal yesterday, wasn't doing anything offensively. Nothing. And he's a young guy, so I'm not going to pick on him. I'm just giving you an example. Tippett. Again, Tippett finally got a goal, but he is nowhere near on the pace of last year. And he doesn't even have the same confidence level, but he doesn't come out of the game. Now, these 2 guys are bigger players, and at least I guess they're checking, so John's happy with that. Frost doesn't do that. I get it, but he also has more skill than a lot of the other guys, and you're not really giving him an opportunity to come out of it when you start taking him out of games. That's the whole thing. So,
Yeah, I think,
that's what's happening.
and I think Frost makes bigger mistakes than those other guys
Okay.
for the most part. I think that's really what it comes down to here, is that we're on like year 3 of this Tortorella Frost, you know, fraught relationship here, right? So we know that he's had problems with Farabee before, but Farabee has basically towed the line when it
Yes.
came down to it. And Farabee doesn't make huge mistakes. Sometimes he'll take a bad penalty, but
Hmm.
he doesn't make catastrophic mistakes. And I think when Frost does, they tend to be extremely noticeable. And that's really what it is at this point. At Dang C 8315 on YouTube, in reaction to our Phantoms Tuesday episode, says this franchise has a devotion to Ian Laperriere that rivals the devotion to Homer. Both never won anything, are incompetent, yet there's a disgraceful devotion that keeps this franchise well below average. And to me, that begs the question: is this season, is it Lappy or is it the players given to him?
I know I've been a little critical in the past. I think this year it's the players given to him. I don't think they've been great. They added players late. Now, Richard was good, so unfortunately, he's not getting to play in
Right.
Lehigh. So that was a good ad, but they don't have him. But I don't think they did enough to fortify that roster to make up the difference of, like you said, where some of their better prospects are not there and in college. And so I don't think they've had enough to restock the pond.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think in years past, the coaching had a lot to do with some of the poor results. I think it's more of a mixed bag this year that they just don't have the personnel to execute as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, Andre's up, Richard's up. Like, what are you gonna do?
And Kolosov's
It's
hamstringing him too, because he obviously doesn't want to go down for a long stretch.
right, right. That would help them quite a bit, I
Yeah.
would say, given the goaltending situation down there. So I don't want to give him a complete pass, and obviously
No,
we need more of the season, but I think that I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt to a large degree.
doesn't mean I'm bringing him back next year. We'll just see how it goes. If he somehow makes the
Oh yeah,
playoffs, he has to come back. Like there's just no way
right,
around it.
right. Or he doesn't have to, but it's more likely than not that he would, right? Because
Correct.
those are results driven
Yep.
decision making by the
Yep.
organization. And I also think that if Torts is around, he wants Lappy there because Lappy is seemingly happy to live in his own vacuum and not want to deal with the head coach of the Flyers,
Right.
right?
Right.
If Torts isn't around and that dynamic changes, I think things are up for grabs at
Yeah,
that
I
point.
agree.
Emster_P on Instagram commented, I just love that we develop super duper elite third and fourth line muckers and grinders instead of offensive minded players. And Russ, like, do you think that's true? Or have we just had bad luck with offensive minded players who haven't been producing to the level of expected?
Yeah, I think it's a little of that. I think it's a combination, but it's a little of that. Because look, I mean, Joel Farabee, before he became a Flyer, was a terrific offensive player. And I still think he's been pretty good. What, he had 50 points last year? And that's pretty good. I mean, I don't
Right.
know how much more he was really going to get, maybe 60. Uh, but he should have more goals. He has a great shot, but he doesn't really get to use it as much in. And I do think some of it's playing the torch system. Forster's young, so I'm not going to say he's producing enough or not. Frost, I don't think it's been not great development on him and the team. I think it's a shared responsibility there. And then Tippett, it's on him. The team has given him more than enough opportunities and the puck and touches and everything else,
The right line
the
mates.
right line mates. This is on him.
Yeah. So I mean, sports and prospect development and hockey prospect development is a combination of skill and luck, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where we're at. We're a little bit down on the luck side of things, for
Yeah.
sure. But I think that they could maybe get a little bit more creative with who they're choosing to either trade for or develop here.
I mean, the only thing I could say is it's hard to get first and second line players and first pairing D men. It's hard. And it's not like every team has such a, too many, so such a, you know, a surplus of tremendous offensive players that the first two lines are now the first three because they just don't have the room because they're all equal. Like nobody has that. So I think unfortunately when you draft and either you're not trying to go high enough on the ceiling, you're kind of like towing the line and going a little safe, then you're more likely to produce third and fourth line guys. Like, that's just the way it is. And I think sometimes they go too safe in the draft.
Yeah, I think so. Hannah has our last question. Noah Cates, Morgan Frost, and Tyson Forster are all RFAs this upcoming offseason. What are the chances each of them gets traded versus just not signing them for the next season?
Yeah, I think Cates will sign because you can get him fairly cheap and he knows his role. I think Frost gets traded. Forster will get signed. I think it's going to be a bridge deal. If he plays like this year, it's going to be a bridge deal. You can't sign him long term yet. He hasn't earned it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, obviously having first right of refusal with the RFA status, like they're going to give Cates a decent offer as
Yeah.
to what he is relative to what he is worth. And he'll just take it because that's the right thing to do. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to try and trade Morgan Frost. We'll see if they succeed.
All they have to do is call Brad Treliving. I'm telling you, that's all they have to do.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, and I think Forster's going to get a bridge deal for lower than he wants, but I think it'll depend on how the rest of this season goes.
Right. If he,
figure out what
ends
that'll
up
be.
with 25 goals, he'll make more. If he ends up with 16 goals, bridge deal.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if any of them score a goal. Well, probably Morgan Frost will sit. So if Noah Cates or Tyson Forster score a goal versus the Canes, we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in your mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at Miriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, also on those platforms, and it's SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.